Coming up this weekend, win, move on, lose, go home. In the flyweight division, we have JJ Aldrich taking on the queen of violence, Ariane Lipski. And for both of these women in their last respective fights, they were both finished. Albeit JJ Aldrich lost to the now number 3 ranked divisional darling, Erin Blanchfield. Had a good first round against her. And Ariane Lipski had a weird reshuffling of a fight that was due at 125, but it was up at bantamweight against Priscilla Cachoeira, who's still unranked, and she got finished in that fight and didn't really look like her normal self in that one either. So Lipski's trying to get back on the hump. And if you look at it for Ariane Lipski, at one point in her career, KSW 42, Mateusz Gamrot, he's a champ. Tomasz Narkun, he's a champ. Poster has both of them in the challengers, and in the middle, with a ray of light, it's Ariane Lipski with the belt. She was a poster athlete with KSW. She was a reigning, defending champ there, and in that fight, well, she had already beaten Diana Belbizia to win the title. She defended it twice. The last defense against La Malvada, Silvana Gomez Juarez in a wild fight. And then Lipski ends up in the UFC. And now, at this point, Matt, not going off all that great. And that's kind of the crazy part. Lipski right now is at the same point that she was at when she started her pro career, because Lipski started off 2-3 in professional MMA with fights against Diana Turcado, Gisele Moreira, and Diana Firmino. And all of those women are very, very good. So tough competition when you start. But if you look at it for Lipski in the run in the UFC, consider it, she's a KSW champ. She comes in and she loses to Joanne Wood. Well, that's definitely a litmus test. Exactly. And Wood at that point was still quite credentialed.
Crafty vet.
She loses to Molly McCann. She beats Isabella De Padua. She beats Luana Carolina. Loses to Shevchenko. Loses to De La Rosa. Beats Berm. And then loses to Cachoeira. The craziest part about it is, if you look at it for Lipski, she beats De Padua, who comes in on short notice. She mops her. That's De Padua's only fight in the UFC. Go back to the regional scene. She beats Luana Carolina, who is a decent UFC fighter to this point. She's 3-2 in the UFC. That was a contender for 2020 Submission of the Year, was that knee bar. And she was mean about it. She stood up and let out a primal yell, and she gets the win. Then she loses to Shevchenko. She beats Mandy Berm, who's 0-2 in the UFC to this point. So the wins haven't been against the greatest level competition. The losses are to fighters who were at one point ranked or could have been ranked, except for Priscilla Cachoeira. So now it's weird because Lipski has a great reset. And for JJ Aldrich, the highs have been highs. Some of the lows have been lows. Her last fight out, we can really break it down skill for skill, shot for shot against Erin Blanchfield, but she got submitted. Standing guillotine choke. Aldrich, forever Colorado, grew up there, trained there, elevation fight team with some of the best women that you're going to find in these divisions that she trains with. But Matt, it's a tricky fight because JJ Aldrich fights on a line and Ariane Lipski has the peaks and valleys, and it's tough to try and offer a prediction on peaks and valley fighters.
I have no idea how Lipski wins this fight, if I'm being completely honest. I don't like being one-sided in all of my analysis, but this is the thing about Aldrich that I really do like. She's good defensively. Really across the board. Like, she keeps her hands up, which is pretty important. She throws good volume, I would say. It's nothing over. She's not Max Holloway on the feet or anything, but she has good boxing, I would say. Good defensively, keeps the hands up, is difficult to take down, and doesn't eat power shots. If you're Lipski, I don't think the big flurries are really going to work on the feet. I don't think the kicks are going to work because Aldrich does do a good job moving forward with her attack. And the thing is, it's very difficult to throw kicks when you're moving backwards. Yair Rodriguez is a once-in-a-lifetime athlete, guys. Like, he doesn't come around all that often. So for Lipski, if she is able to use those Tony Ferguson front kicks, I think it could work very well for her because Aldrich is someone who doesn't use a lot of kicks. But again, her boxing is at the forefront of her game. So I do expect Aldrich to have the better offense with the volume and to be better defensively. So for me, I struggle to see how Lipski wins other than her being able to go out there and get a finish or a big action throughout this fight because the Queen of Violence is her nickname, but I think it's fair to say that we have not seen the Queen of Violence in a meaningful period of time.
She looked pretty good in the 2021 win against Mandy Berm. She was pushing a pace.
Is it fair to say, though, I think JJ Aldrich would probably beat Priscilla Cachoeira. I think she beat Montana De La Rosa, even though it'd be a close fight, but I think her defensive wrestling's good enough. Not saying I'm right just because I said it, and I do think she beat Antonina Shevchenko just because Shevchenko's all over the board.
Originally, this fight was actually booked for last year. This time last year, Lipski withdrew, and then you had Aldrich going out there and beating Jillian Robertson.
My whole thing about JJ Aldrich is, to me, remember how we used to say for the longest time, Dustin Jacoby was the 16th ranked light heavyweight? Like, hey, if you're going to be ranked, you beat him, and if you lose to him, you're not going to be ranked. Aldrich is that fighter to me, and I just struggle to see Lipski having a complete enough game to really make it into the rankings.
Well, I mean, for Aldrich, 7-4 in the UFC. She came in on the Ultimate Fighter season 23, got a win, then got finished by Tatiana Suarez, who to this point still, undefeated. But if you look at it for Aldrich, she's been fighting since 2010 as an amateur debut with Rocky Mountain Bad Boys, the promotion. So 7-4 UFC. Again, you go through the record. She does have that last win against Jillian Robertson. She outstruck Erin Blanchfield, looked really good at the boxing in the first round. Blanchfield then was able to close that distance. Got that submission win as it went on. She has good counter wrestling in general, does JJ Aldrich. Her boxing can be up and down when she gives up distance. She's actually a negative striker in terms of numbers in the UFC. 4.05 significant strikes landed per minute to 4.54 received. Negative 0.49 strike differential in the UFC. The favorite is Aldrich, open minus 145. She's about a minus 250 favorite. Lipski open plus 125, plus 200 right now. Pretty rich for unranked women's flyweights. You have a look at the Topology votes. Matt, surprise to us there. To you, I'm going to say over under 75% Aldrich.
I would say over.
You've been pretty one-sided. 649
I've done
total
a good
votes.
job up until now.
74% Aldrich, 26% Lipski. I too think Aldrich is going to win the fight. However, if Lipski can be the advancing party, landing the bigger shots in the flurries and then backing off and not giving Aldrich the time to set back up and get into a rhythm, Aldrich is a rhythm-based fighter. And if you can break her out of that, you can kind of beat her at times. So for Lipski, she can go out there, land those front kicks, land the teep kicks, and change things. And when you look at it for the grappling, as good of a defensive, wrestling specialist, I guess you could call JJ Aldrich, because you don't see her go out there for a lot of takedowns. Courtney Casey fight, maybe, but you don't see that at the forefront of her game. If Lipski's going to be able to go out there, counter some of that, utilize her grappling skills, she herself training at ATT with some of the best women in the world. So both these women from power gyms for their respective, game plans that we've seen so far. I like JJ Aldrich out of the steadiness, but again, peak and valley fighters are really, really hard to try and offer up a prediction on.
It's a terrible comparison, but I'm going to make it. Aldrich to me is like Russell Westbrook. Like, the floor is raised for your team if you have
JJ Aldrich could be an MVP.
No. But Aldrich, the thing about Westbrook is, if he's on your team, your floor is going to be high, because at least he's going to go out there and get like a 30-point triple-double. The problem is, the ceiling won't be all that high, because once you make it to the playoffs, other guys out there are going to be able to out-ISO him in close games, and the other superstars of the league are going to be able to outplay him in those situations. For Aldrich, I just see her as someone who has a high floor but not a high ceiling, because again, she's good defensively pretty much across the board. And you bring up she is a negative striker, but the one thing is, her strikes landed per minute are quite high. They are above the UFC average, and I do think that her, with her output, is going to have quite a bit of success against Lipski, who does have a very high guard, tends to be a little bit more defensive on the feet until she can really land some of those powerful counter shots. Again, I can admit this in every UFC video we've ever done. I feel like I'm slightly higher on JJ Aldrich than most people are, but I just give her the respect that she deserves, because again, she's a tough fight for anybody in the division. I don't think she's going to go out there and beat Valentina or anything like that, but again, she can defend takedowns, she's hard to hit clean, she's going to offer you a difficult fight no matter who you are.
Matt, a very difficult fight to offer that prediction up. Both of us going with Colorado's JJ Aldrich to get the win. Some big fights on this card. Volkov, Romanov in the co-main event in the main, Jan versus Dvalishvili. Can't wait for it. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks. We always say, let's get into it.